G'day, Dan the Man here with another episode of Welcome to Somebody Else's Garden Who Doesn't Want to Be Filmed. I like this garden. I've seen it evolve over many years. It's only a small garden in Byron Bay, and I like the diversity of things growing here. This garden is in transition at the moment, and it's not a full display garden. So I just wanted to take you through, introduce you to a few plants here. This one over here is one of my all-time favourites. It's called a pigeon pea, and you can see it has these nice, these ones have darkened off. There's the pea in there, and that one's gone black, unfortunately. It should have been harvested a little while ago. The pigeon pea will grow up to 2 meters high. It's a very multifunctional plant in the garden, and the thing I love about the pigeon pea is that it attracts predatory insects such as the assassin bug. This is the only known plant to my knowledge that does attract them. The pigeon pea looks a little bit like this when it hasn't gone rotten in the pod. The pea was the first used to make dal in India, and since then lentils have taken over. The leaves are very high in nitrogen, and the quality as a fodder is as good as lucerne, which a lot of people are very surprised at. It's a nitrogen fixer as well, and just an all-round good plant to have in the garden, a shrub. And yeah, very nice. Now I'm going to take you through, just show you a few things in the garden here, in case you haven't visited them before. Right just down below here, this little plant growing here is oregano. It's it could be a little bit bigger, and there's probably a little bit of fertiliser, and it'll come good. This garden bed's had many lettuces and other things growing in it before, and it just needs a little bit of fertiliser, maybe a bit of compost, and some new seedlings, and away it'll go again. These are quite old shallots. Shallots have a very good ability to stay in the ground for a very long time. You just take them as you need them. Now you do not need to pull a whole shallot if you want to use them. You can just take them leaf for leaf like that and put them in your salad or your stir fries or other foods you're making. If you want to just come over here, this is a nice little sample here. There's some chives, very delicate little plant here, but they're very drought tolerant, and this garden gets a lot of exposure to the afternoon sun. And I'll take you over here. On this side we've got a little thyme, and it's actually doing quite well. And what's this? If I'm not mistaken, we've got ourselves here a little bit of nutgrass. Now this nutgrass is the bane of most gardens, very hard to get rid of. It grows by root division, and you can see over here these ones will all be connected by a thread. Now they can really take over. You don't want to turn the soil when there's nutgrass in it, because you'll propagate the nutgrass. The trick here, if you want to try and keep using this area, is to loosen the soil up and use your fingers with gloves on to go down deep, find the nut down deep and loosen it and gently pull it up, and it will have the thread to the next nutgrass. Now in another episode, when I have some gloves, I'll demonstrate how to do that, but very hard weed to get rid of. If you see the nutgrass in seed, by all means pull the seed pod out, because it won't throw another seed pod. Well, moving on along, we have a little bit over here. This is a nasturtium. It has edible flowers, quite delicious. Part of the flower is a little bit peppery as well. Very nice for garnishing, and also tasty in the salads. Over here we have a parsley, very healthy looking parsley, this one. Parsley's an excellent one in the garden, very resilient, also drought tolerant. They can handle quite a bit of neglect. Moving on along, I'll bring you down here and have a look at this, folks. You wouldn't recognise it. This was a massive silver beet. I have never seen a base on a silver beet that big before. Now apparently not long ago this silver beet was producing very large leaves, and unfortunately the compost and fertilizers weren't kept up to the plant, and the rain hit in. We've had a lot of rain up here in the northern rivers, and the fungus set in, so all of a sudden a plant that was producing a massive amounts of silver beet, enough to supply the household needs, has taken a turn for the worse. It probably won't recover it and should be replanted. Also growing around here, got to watch out for this one. It's mint, traditional garden mint. I love a bit of mint and salads, and that particular one, mint can really take off and become a bit of a weed. Now that's okay if you want it, but if you're gardening in a confined spaces, you might want to consider putting your mint in a pot so you can keep control of it. If you really like your mint, then let it get away. Okay, and if you come over here, you can see how much the mint's really taken off, and it's really getting away all over the place, which is fine. This one over here is an aloe vera, in case you haven't come across them. They're a excellent plant. There's various ways you can eat an aloe vera, and very good if you have a sunburn, very relieving to put the goopy substance inside the aloe vera onto your skin where it's been burned. Now I have seen many garlic chives before. This is one of the most prosperous and happy ones. Now keep in mind there hasn't been a lot of maintenance happening on this garden, so this has really held its own. It's come up and actually looks very pretty. It could even be a feature as well as an edible feature. And over here, this is a young avocado tree. It's grown of its own accord. Not a great ideal location here, because the avocado tree is a massive tree and it would eventually grow into the house. Unfortunately, you need to graft most avocado trees in order to guarantee that they fruit within a reasonable time frame, perhaps 5 to 7 years before they throw their first fruit. So you could graft another variety onto this one if it were to stay, but I wouldn't recommend leaving this tree in this position because it will cause some damage to the house in the future. Now, I've shown you before small parsley, my mistake, sorry, comfrey plants. Look at this, it's really taken off. Once again, comfrey is one of those plants that if you're given the opportunity, it will become a weed and really get out of control. So a good one to confine into a pot if you have confined spaces. I prefer to grow my comfrey around the bases of my fruit trees, and that way they act as a living mulch. This one here is a lovely specimen of rosemary. It could do with a little bit of food. Sometimes the leaves are a little bit darker, but look at the beautiful flowers on that rosemary. Well, that appears to be it for now, except there's another pigeon pea growing down here. I forgot to mention the pigeon peas only grow for about 5 to 7 years before the actual bush will die. Alright, well there you go. There's another episode of Welcome to Somebody Else's Garden, and hopefully I'll be able to find some participants to introduce their own gardens in the near future. So, happy gardening!